I'm 29, male, a regional sales manager who spends more time in airport hotels than in my own apartment. 4 months straight on the road, Denver, Phoenix, Chicago, back to Denver, bouncing between client dinners and conference rooms that all smell like the same recycled air. I'm not complaining about the job. It pays well, I'm good at it, and I've always liked the independence. What I didn't like was finding out that while I was gone, my roommate had been treating my apartment and my girlfriend like they were both just sitting there available for him. Let me set the scene properly. My roommate and I had known each other since college. 8 months before all this went down, he'd gotten engaged to a woman who seemed, from every interaction I'd had with her, like a genuinely good person. She'd show me venue photos once, holding her phone up excitedly, like I was family. I remember thinking, good for them. I'd been dating someone, my ex, for about 14 months at that point. We weren't perfect, but things were solid. She knew about my travel schedule from day one. For months on the road, sometimes more. She said she understood. She didn't. The text came on a Tuesday. I was in a Denver hotel room, reviewing a quarterly report, eating room service pasta that had gone cold. My phone buzzed. I'm pregnant. And you're the father. I put my fork down and stared at the screen. Here's the thing about shock, it doesn't always feel like panic. Sometimes it's just stillness. A quiet recalibration. My brain ran the math before my emotions could catch up. For months. I had been on the road for 4 months. The last time my ex and I had been in the same room was before Thanksgiving. It was now late March. I didn't call. I didn't panic. I typed back one line. Congratulations. What's his name? Then I set my phone down and went back to my pasta. She called 17 times in 20 minutes. I watched the screen light up and go dark, light up and go dark. On the 18th call, I picked up. How could you say that? Her voice was shaking. I just told you I'm pregnant and you. The math doesn't work, I said. I've been gone 4 months. So either you're telling me this is some kind of miracle or there's something you need to tell me. Silence. I've been seeing someone, she said finally. Who? More silence. Who? I said again. Slower. Your roommate. I didn't yell. I didn't break anything. Something in me just went very cold and very clear, the way a room sharpens when someone opens a window in winter. How long? I said. 3 months. 3 months. My roommate had been engaged for 8 months. He'd been sleeping with my girlfriend for 3 of those months. In my apartment, while I was in hotel rooms eating cold pasta and grinding through quarterly reports. Are you sure it's his? I asked. Yes. Does he know? Not yet, she said. I wanted to tell you first. She wanted to tell me first. Like that was a courtesy. Okay, I said. Okay? That's all you're going to say. Good night, I said and hung up. I didn't sleep much that night. I lay on top of the hotel comforter and stared at the ceiling, and instead of spiraling emotionally, I thought about logistics. The feelings could wait. Logistics first. My roommate had been sleeping with my girlfriend for 3 months. He was engaged. His fiancée didn't know. My ex was now pregnant with his child, and he didn't know that either. And I had the entire text thread on my phone. Here's what my ex didn't account for. She wasn't careful. She'd texted me from her regular number, the same one she'd always used, and looking back through the thread with fresh eyes, the breadcrumbs were everywhere. A casual reference to last night, when I knew for a fact I'd been in Phoenix. A message 3 weeks prior saying she couldn't keep doing this, that I'd taken at the time as frustration about our long-distance situation. A text that said, I wish things were simpler, that I'd replied to with me too, miss you, and she hadn't responded for 6 hours. I pulled up a screenshot tool and spent an hour documenting everything. Every relevant message, timestamps intact. I'm methodical by nature. It's literally why I'm good at my job. You don't walk into a negotiation without your materials organized. By 2 in the morning, I had everything. I gave myself exactly 45 minutes to sit with what I was about to do. I wanted to be certain I wasn't acting from pure rage. By the time the 45 minutes were up, I was certain. I forwarded the thread, the whole thing, to my roommate and his fiancée. Both of them, simultaneously. 1 message, 2 recipients. I added a single line above the screenshots. Thought you both should have the full picture. Then I turned my phone off, set an alarm, and slept for 5 hours. When I turned it back on at 7 the next morning, there were 34 unread messages and 11 missed calls. My roommate had called 6 times. His fiancée twice. My ex 3 times. My roommate's text started with denial and escalated to blame within about 9 messages. First came the predictable ones. It's not what it looks like. We need to talk before you do anything else. You're blowing this out of proportion. Then came the turn. You were never around. What did you expect her to do? There it was. My travel schedule, repackaged as justification for his choices. My absence as the reason his behavior wasn't his fault. I read it twice. Screenshotted it. Saved it. His fiancée's messages were different. Shorter. More fractured. She'd sent 3 texts, each one quieter than the last. The final one just said, "Is this real?" No question mark. Just those 3 words sitting there. I texted her back. Yes. I'm sorry. She didn't reply, and I didn't expect her to. My ex called at 7:22 a.m. I picked up. Why would you do that? She wasn't crying. She was furious. Because his fiancée deserved to know, I said. You had no right. He's been cheating on his fiancée for 3 months, I said. In my apartment. With my girlfriend. I had every right. She's devastated, my ex said. Like that was somehow on me. That's between you and him, I said. I'm not part of that equation anymore. You made that clear. You're being so cold. I'm being accurate, I said. There's a difference. I hope things work out for you. I mean that. But I'm done. She went quiet. Then, just like that, you were pregnant with another man's child and your first move was to text me saying I was the father, I said. What version of just like that do you think I'm operating on? She hung up. I drove back home 2 days later to collect my things. I'd been planning to move out anyway, had been looking at apartments for a month, but now the timeline moved fast. I figured I'd get in, grab my stuff, and be out before my roommate came home from work. He was sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in, like he'd been waiting. He looked rough, hadn't slept, but there was something in his posture that wasn't remorse. It was calculation. We need to talk, he said. I'm here to get my stuff, I said. You owe me that much, he said. I stopped. I owe you. You blew up my engagement, he said. Over what? A text message? You could have called me first, given me a chance to handle it. Handle it, I repeated. Like you handled not cheating on your fiancé in my apartment for 3 months? He stood up. He's bigger than me, played football in college, still carries the size. I think the standing was meant to register as a warning. It didn't. I'm asking you, he said, voice low, to call her. Tell her you overreacted. Tell her you misread the messages. No, I'm not asking. I know, I said. That's what makes it impressive that I'm still saying no. He pivoted fast. I remembered this about him from college. He was never good at sustained confrontation. If you didn't fold in the first 30 seconds, he'd switch approaches. Look, he said, softer now, I know I messed up, but we've been friends for years. Are you really going to throw that away? She's pregnant. My kid. I need my fiancé. You can help fix this. There it was. The appeal to loyalty he'd already spent. The pivot from intimidation to sentiment in under a minute. You should have thought about that, I said and walked to my room. What followed over the next few weeks was something I genuinely didn't see coming, not in terms of the audacity of it. First, he went to our mutual friends and told them a version of events where I'd been emotionally checked out of the relationship for months and had basically pushed my ex toward him. A few of them believed it, or at least decided the situation was too messy to pick a side clearly and landed on his side by default, the side that was in the same city, the same social circle, easier. I lost 2 friendships that way. Guys I'd known for years. Then he called my landlord and told him I'd been subletting my room while traveling for work. I hadn't been. I was on the lease, I paid rent on time every month, and I had every legal right to that apartment regardless of where I was sleeping on any given Tuesday. But it triggered a back and forth with the landlord that cost me 2 weeks of dealing with documentation and clarifying letters. Then he tried something smarter. He called my company's HR department, posing as a concerned party, and filed a vague complaint implying I'd been using company travel resources for personal purposes. There was zero evidence because it wasn't true, but in a corporate environment, a complaint is a complaint. It triggered an internal review. 3 weeks of uncomfortable conversations with my manager and a compliance team. 3 weeks of proving a negative. Each move was designed to keep me scrambling, to make me so busy defending myself that I'd either burn out or soften enough to make the call to his fiancée. He wanted leverage. He wanted me destabilized. What he forgot was that I document everything. It's not even a conscious habit at this point. It's just how I operate. I've been keeping records my whole professional life. The HR complaint was where he made his real mistake. When HR asked me for travel documentation, I provided it. Every receipt, every itinerary, every hotel confirmation, fully organized. But I also asked HR whether filing a bad faith complaint against a coworker was a violation of company policy. They confirmed it was. I explained that I had reason to believe the complaint had originated from my roommate and that his motive was personal retaliation stemming from a private matter. I said I could provide documentation of that. They asked for it. I gave them everything: his text to me, the timeline, the whole paper trail. Here's the part my roommate definitely didn't account for. He worked for a vendor company that had a service contract with my employer. Not the same organization, but a professional relationship that ran through procurement and compliance. When my company's HR flagged a potential bad faith complaint from a vendor-adjacent individual, they shared a summary with their compliance counterparts at his company. Standard process. His company opened their own internal review. Within the month, he was placed on a performance improvement plan and lost a significant client account he'd been managing. I didn't engineer that outcome directly. I just stopped absorbing the blast and let it land where it was always going, back on him. The landlord situation dissolved the moment I submitted a letter from the attorney I'd retained by that point. Straightforward tenant rights consultation, worth every dollar, clarifying my standing under Colorado law. The landlord had never wanted a legal dispute. He'd just reacted to a complaint and backed off the second he understood the actual situation. The two friends who'd gone quiet started getting quieter still as the real story spread, as it always does when you stop actively managing someone else's narrative. I didn't campaign against him. I just let the truth sit there undefended, and people recalibrated on their own. The finishing move came from a direction I hadn't set up at all. His fiancée retained her own attorney, not against me, but to handle the broken engagement and some disputed joint finances she and my roommate had built up. In the course of that process, he was deposed. Under oath, he admitted to the full timeline of the affair. That deposition became relevant because my ex had, by then, done a DNA test confirming paternity and retained a family law attorney to pursue child support. In Colorado, establishing paternity and entering into a child support arrangement follows a standard legal process: voluntary acknowledgement or a court-ordered determination, followed by a support order based on both parents' income and custody arrangement. The court doesn't rush it, but it gets there. During that process, my roommate tried to claim the affair had started later than my ex stated, a discrepancy that had some bearing on calculations his attorney was apparently working through. His own deposition testimony contradicted him directly. His own words, taken under oath weeks earlier, closed the door on that argument completely. He ended up with a child support obligation, a broken engagement, a damaged professional track record, and a social circle that had quietly contracted around him. None of that was something I built deliberately. I just stopped standing in front of the consequences of what he'd done and let them arrive. I moved into my own place 6 weeks after that night in Denver. Smaller apartment, quieter building, nobody else on the lease. I paid first month, last, and deposit and stood in the empty living room for a minute before I set anything down. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like clearing, like opening a window and letting the stale air out. My ex sent one last message a few months later. She'd had the baby, a boy, and said she thought I should know, since I'd been part of her life when everything started. I read it and didn't reply. Not out of cruelty. There just wasn't anything left to say. My roommate and I haven't spoken since the afternoon I packed my boxes. The 2 friendships I lost didn't come back. A third one did. A guy who reached out after he'd gotten the full picture and just said, "I should have asked before I assumed." We got beers. It was fine. What I took from all of it is pretty simple. Loyalty has to be directional. You can't keep extending it to people who are spending it on the other side of your back. And when someone mistakes your patience for passivity, the most effective thing you can do is stop absorbing what they're putting out and let it land exactly where it was always going to land on them. I didn't destroy my roommate. He did that. I just stopped standing in front of the blast. If you read this whole thing without checking your roommate's location once, respect. Hit subscribe because clearly you've got nerves of steel and you deserve more stories like this.